Hello and welcome again here to Husker Online. I don't know what we're calling this thing. We're calling it live reaction to the news here on Sunday that Nebraska has officially parted ways with head coach Scott Frost. We've had quite a, I wouldn't even call it 24 hours. The game ended last night around 10 o'clock. And we came up here. We did a live show with you guys last night at midnight. That ended at 1. And by noon here on Sunday, Scott Frost was informed Trev Alberts informed Scott Frost that he's no longer the head football coach at Nebraska. And we had a press conference at 3. Joining me here on our special edition, we've got Stephen M. Sipple of Husker Online, formerly 33 years with the Lincoln Journal-Star, and Robin Washett, as we're going to be with you here for the next hour, breaking down everything we've learned. And before we get into it, guys, no better time to check out all of our coverage on Husker Online. We've been working all night, all day. Robin is putting the final touches on his coach's hot board. You're going to want to read that. We've got a special coaching search special now, just launched by On3. The promo is get the whole year now for $10. So make sure you go on Husker Online, take advantage of it. We have so much stuff up right now, and no better time to check all this out. But Sip, I feel like we've been through many of these tours now covering Nebraska football. What was your thought of just the day in general?
Oh, I thought Trev Alberts, excuse me, I think he handled it really well. There's the level of transparency was superb. I thought everything from talking about, why they decided to just pay Scott the full $15 million buyout, not wait till it went down to 7.5 on October 1. Everything from that to laying out the day. I mean, laying out how it all went down, starting with a meeting with Scott at 11 a.m. to give him the news, how they both met, Scott and Trev, with the players subsequently, and then Trev let Scott talk to the players by himself, and then inform Mickey at about 11:45 that he would be the interim head coach, Mickey Joseph, and then Mickey talking to the players. So Trev laid out the day and answered all the questions today. Very strong. I wrote what I wrote, and what I said last night is the pressure kind of shifts to Trev. And I thought the first step of the process is the press conference to handle it. And I thought he was superb.
Yeah, I agree. And, he's kind of that's how he's handled this whole situation. He said all the right things, has been, very honest and diplomatic at the same time through a very difficult circumstance where he inherited kind of a mess. When let it play out, he kind of let the story write itself. And
he did.
There was the question about why he didn't wait till October 1st, because obviously that was the point where the Scott Frost buyout would go from 15 million to 7.5. So it was, interesting the timing of it, but he basically said that we owe it to our players to do this now,
to make a move now, to maybe create a spark. He said, Rob, is that they had to do something. And I would say that Scott wasn't getting through to his guys. I don't think it didn't seem to, right?
Yeah, there was a disconnect.
It seemed like it, at least. On the defense, there's some kind of disconnect going on.
A few disconnections.
I mean, it really turned.
Disconnecting themselves from runners. I would say that. Sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
The onside kick is where things really turned
in Ireland.
And our videographer Greg Peterson was down on the sidelines for that entire game, and Trev Alberts was down on the sidelines, and he said before the onside kick and things, Alberts was, hands were up. He was just into that game. I mean, it looked like things were well on their way. And then that game just turned, and he said it looked like, somebody stole Albert's lunch money. He just had his head down, and he was very quiet the rest of the game. And I remember after the game, Kevin Warren went up and just kind of consoled Alberts and almost said, "Hey, I kind of have a feeling I know what you're probably thinking about next. And, you've got my support right now." And you could, that moment, I'll never forget them two just after that game on the field talking,
Warren and Alberts
talking on the field after that game in Ireland. But that's when it really changes. Think about the pep rally. You guys weren't at the pep rally.
No, I was not at the pep rally.
Go back to that scene of 5,000, Nebraska fans in Dublin, Ireland, Alberts, Frost on the stage together.
God, this has happened fast.
And
seems like 2 years ago.
yeah,
and here we are today. I mean, that was like a moment you dream about as a coach, to have that kind of support and fans filling up basically the Central Park of Dublin, Ireland, with Nebraskans traveling and going overseas, and then having it all turn so quickly to here we are today.
Well, it did turn quickly. And again, it goes back to Trev feeling like he had to make a move now. This is all, see, Rob, I think it's all happened pretty fast. I mean,
Well, because the worst case scenario played out. I mean, the only thing that was going to force this decision was what happened last night and what almost happened against North Dakota.
and then what did happen in Ireland.
Exactly. So, I mean, really, when we went into the season, like, if these things happen, it's going to get interesting. Well, all those things happened. Like, the literally worst,
Double-digit favorites.
the
in all
worst
games.
case possible outcomes happened for Scott Frost. And I think that it ended up being, there's no choice. I mean, obviously,
Kind of, yeah.
waiting a couple more weeks would have saved you a bunch of money, but then you're saying that you're saving $1 million is more important than the season and the players, the brand of Nebraska, and saving yourself from further embarrassment. And just think like we talked about the dead man walking clips of Frost, walking out of the tunnel after another loss when Oklahoma beats him by however much. Like, you avoid that now. At least now you put a new face on your program. You breathe some life, a new voice, as Trev put it. You have that now, to where if you would have let this play out to wait for that buyout, I mean, this thing could have gotten pretty ugly.
Right. And I mean, Trev is
uglier.
Now I want to be careful in how I word it so you understand. Trev is very results oriented, and waiting for the buyout to be cut in half. That's not necessarily a results oriented move. It's not. I mean, even waiting 3 more games. I mean, he felt like this. Listen, they gave up 528 yards to Northwestern. They kicked that damn outside kick. They didn't play well against North Dakota. It was a game that they didn't have in hand until 6.5 minutes remained. And then they gave up 642 yards. 642 yards to Georgia Southern. If Trev just says, well, I'm just going to bite the bullet for 3 more weeks or 20 more days. For the money. That's not really results oriented.
No.
And he is. Trev is pretty old school, results oriented AD. The what you're telling me about that onside kick, that's not a traditionalist move to kick that onside kick in the third quarter.
Not.
And he's old school, and I'm not surprised he didn't react well to that.
Well, I mean, they gambled the whole trip on that play. I mean,
gambled the season on that.
Kind of, yeah.
I
It
mean,
was a desperation move.
Just
doesn't it? Wasn't it
a desperation move up 11 in the third quarter?
Yeah.
After you just had massive momentum.
Go figure.
Well, they're not going to sell that way. There's assistant coaches on that staff that will sell it as we had an opportunity. We saw something. I would counter with it felt desperate.
It did. And even if you get it, okay. I mean, you still got to go down and score, and it's still 10 minutes left in the third quarter. Like, it's not like the game was won on that play call. What you did was you put losing into the equation. You changed the tenor of the game with that decision, and whoever's idea it was, whatever the execution on the play was, Scott Frost signed off on it. He put his name on it, and he paid the consequence.
So now here we are.
And now Mickey Joseph, and we're going to get into candidates. We're getting into names. We've got over 500 people watching us live right now. So great audience again. I think last night we were over 600 for most of the show. I'm hoping we can top those numbers again. As we know, a lot of you have questions, comments, thoughts. We're going to get to them here.
Let's get to Mickey and why they named him.
Let's talk about Mickey
and why why Trev named him.
You last night didn't know if Mickey would be the interim. That was a question.
Oh, I didn't think he would be. I said that.
When you step back and look at it, maybe it does make sense.
Well, the way Trev explained it, and that's what we should get into. Not what I think. I think it's more important to say what Trev thought and why he said that Mickey was a choice. And Trev made sense, right? Mm-hmm. He said that Mark Whipple, he's coaching a side of the ball. He's coaching the offense. He has a lot on his plate to coach that side of the ball. Any coordinator does. And Eric Chenander, Whipple definitely would have been a candidate. In fact, I thought it'd be Whipple because he's 65, because he has head coaching experience, and he won't be a candidate for the job.
Maybe
I thought
he didn't want it, though.
It's possible he didn't want it. It's possible there's extenuating circumstances. Mm-hmm. I think there are, actually. Now, as far as Chenander goes, God, he's got a mess on his hands. There's no way right now you could hire Eric Chenander.
Can you imagine the reaction to that?
It would be a horrible reaction from the fan base and warranted.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
so shift it to Mickey. Makes sense. He has captured fans' imaginations with his recruiting.
Yeah, he's the most popular guy on the staff, and I think by a pretty wide margin.
He does not coach a side of the ball, so he's kind of freed up. You can have analyst, a grad assistant help you to a large extent with the receivers. You can't have an analyst take over the offense or take over the defense. So Trev explained that, and then it made sense.
And Whipple's still going to call plays. Like, it's not like Mickey's coming and taking over the offense. It's going to be Whipple's offense, and Mickey's going to oversee everything.
And now we'll know if he really was calling the plays. We'll see what this offense, if it changes a lot.
Well, you're big on that shit.
We'll get some answers.
First of all,
see how much QB run we
draw.
Get. Yeah.
I mean,
QB draw, Sean.
None of us should be critical of the offense. So, I mean, they had 675 plus yard
They
drives
did their part
last night. 6 touchdown drives.
Oh, and they did their part in Ireland too.
Yeah,
for the most part.
North Dakota
broke
was
down
the one moment.
Yeah,
where there was the 23 plays in the first half. But
anyway,
Mickey, you know, I've said this on Channel 7. We did a little live shot after.
Okay.
I said it kind of reminds me of when USC appointed Ed Orgeron as the interim coach, not a coordinator, never been a play caller, really.
D-line coach,
but just unreal recruiter, players guy. And
that is very good comparison.
Captivate the fans, you know, his personality.
It's a personality. Now, Mickey would not probably be resistant to saying that. I mean, most coaches would be. I'm more into personality, but a lot of this is personality driven. But more, I think it's also very pragmatic on the part of Trev. Again, Whipple has a side of the ball. Eric has a side of the ball that's a mess. You can't make those guys the interim.
Yeah.
Or you could make Whipple, but it makes more sense to
like Sean Beckton could have been a candidate too.
Sure, Sean Beckton could have been a candidate. You're right.
But does he do the enthusiasm and energy the way Mickey does?
Mickey will be a loud voice. He'll be a loud voice. I don't know that he'll probably be fairly loud in media settings, and he's pretty brash. But in the team room, loud voice, right? No, and Trev said he'll make some changes, some structural changes. Now, I don't know what that means exactly. You asked Trev, Sean, what?
I asked Trev, just was Scott Frost the only person relieved? I just wanted to clarify, like, did anybody else leave today with Scott Frost?
Right. Now, will Mickey make changes on the staff?
He left that door open.
And is there anybody that Mickey doesn't want to work around? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would assume things.
He might shift some people.
But there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that will happen this week. You know, I think it's going to be a big collective talk week of like the future of NIL and kind of where things could shift with collectives and other things.
Now, Sean, I don't know that they'll get to that now.
Yeah, I mean they got the task at hand right now.
No, well, there could be an announcement. I mean, you reported in our tunnel talk that Omaha Collective is being formed.
Yeah,
and I think some of that stuff will make its way out.
You think?
In the coming weeks.
That might get held up a little bit by all this.
It will be interesting just to see, because I don't know if anybody was prepared for this day.
Right.
I mean, 23-point home favorite.
Right.
But I will say, I want to share the story about Mickey Joseph. Andy Kendi, who works at Channel 7, he talked to somebody at the press conference Sunday, and they said that was around the team today, and they said you should have seen the reception that Mickey Joseph got. I mean, it was like,
is that right?
The players were fired up. They were excited that Mickey was going to step into this opportunity. So that's why I use the Ed Orgeron analogy, because
it's interesting, Sean.
I get the sense the players are like, I want to fight for Mickey now. And that's going to be a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think, probably the number one reason why Trev went this direction. Obviously, Mickey's got a nice resume with the work that he's done. He's never been a head coach, which is interesting, but obviously coached at the highest level, most recently LSU. So he's been around high level talent. He knows how to deal with high pressure and those types of situations. So he's no stranger to that, but just the energy, I think, that he gives guys, where he's cocky, he's brash, and he's going to say the right things to fire guys up. And the key thing you got to keep in mind, they got 9 more games left. And that's a big part of this, where breathing this type of life into the program at this point is absolutely critical.
Okay, well, I thought you were about to go, Rob, is 9 games left, 1-2. If Mickey can breathe life into the program and win some games that are unexpected, Mickey Joseph maybe becomes a candidate for the head coaching job.
He's in the
Just like Ed
discussion.
Orgeron, how he got the job at USC.
He's in the discussion. He's got a 9-game trial run here where he can maybe more.
See, now I would regard him as an outside, as a sort of a long shot right now, but he could move into the top group pretty fast.
I mean, if they start winning some games, guys start rallying around him, and you have the full support of your roster.
And you could sense media in the room today. Like, I mean, there was like a push to want him to be like a legit candidate. I mean, you could just feel it in the question tone. I mean, there are people that are like rooting or thinking that he is a legit candidate for the job.
But as we talked about last night, Trev Alberts is going to look big with this hire. And so this, just because Mickey is the interim does not mean he's got the inside track on anything. I guarantee you Trev has his eyes set on some fairly big names and is going to be willing to spend whatever is necessary to offer a competitive deal to those big names.
Well, think about it, Rob. You're putting together the hot board. I mean, there's guys out there that have coached Big Ten programs that are available. Bill O'Brien at Alabama is so intriguing to me. The Alabama offensive coordinator.
I like the O'Brien thought.
Yeah, the O'Brien. Why is O'Brien intriguing? Because, well, he's the Alabama offensive coordinator right now, which is pretty good on your resume. But also he coached Penn State at a time right after the Jerry Sandusky.
They went 8-4.
Right after the Jerry Sandusky scandal. Yeah, he was
National Coach of the Year.
Okay, yeah, 15-6. I think he was 15-7, 10-6 in the Big Ten in 2 years. He coached at a horrible time there and did a really good job. And he's a tough dude. I like his personality because he's an hombre, and he has a stomach for this place. Now he's not the only one who would. There's other guys.
He's like a polished Bo Pelini.
Yeah,
he's just
he's
a dude. Rough. He doesn't take any BS, but he's not going to lose his cool.
Maybe
the way
not.
Sometimes it happens.
I think he loses it a little bit, but not like that.
Yeah,
not like
exactly.
Bo.
Exactly. A tempered Bo Pelini.
Yeah, so I don't want to go too far down the Bill O'Brien road because as your hot board is going to have how many names?
Well, we got 11 prime candidates. We have 5 ones to watch, and then a handful of long shots.
That's
that
a lot
put on there. Yeah, so I mean it's a big list right now, and that's why it's 1.0 because it's going to continuously be updated as we all hear different things and as rumors start to surface. So it'll be a progressive board that will be constantly evolving as we learn more information.
All right, if you're just joining us, about 800 now live watching as we break down this Nebraska coaching search. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, Husker Online. Check out the website. We've got great coverage from today. We were up early. We covered the Frost firing news, and we've covered and reacted now to Trev Alberts news. Lots going on. Check it out. We got a great promotion. You'll get all of Husker Online's content now for 1 year for $10. So check out Husker Online. There's our front page right now pulled up. Tons of great content. Steve Sipple's covered the team for 33 years. I've been over 20 years on the beat. Robin's been on the beat for close to 20 years as well. You're not going to find a team that knows this stuff. And unfortunately, gentlemen, we've been through a number of these coaching searches.
Yeah.
Get some practice.
Yeah, that helps. Now that hot board that Rob's putting together will be worth $10. It'll be worth $100. I mean, that it will be.
You'll go to work on Monday if you read Robin's hot board and like at least versed on the candidates.
Yeah. I mean,
and it was a collective. It's not just me coming up with names. Like this is all of us like putting our heads together and like who is a realistic candidate? Like who should we really be talking about here? And again, like I said, it's tiered. Like where you got the guys that we really think are legitimate. We got the guys that we could see in the conversation. Then we got those kind of home run Hail Mary names that just need to be on the list just in case.
Now Trev did talk pretty in depth about what he's looking for, and he did make it clear that now I want to hear what you guys think about this. I mean, he laid out kind of a vibe that he's just starting this process. He's going to talk. He said he's going to talk to a lot of different people. Remember, Trevor was an ESPN analyst for years, has a lot of connections. He said he's going to talk to those connections. That sometimes he's going to talk to people. It's going to get out. It doesn't necessarily mean he talked to that person because that person was a candidate, just was seeking guidance. He said there'll be a lot of rumors. I wondered a little bit as he was talking if that was a smoke screen. I wonder a little bit if he has guys 3 or 4 he's honed in on already.
Like
Matt Campbell, that you hear that. CBS
Yes.
Sports, I see, is reporting that they've reported that Campbell has interest in Nebraska's job.
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard going back to last year that I don't mind saying it, that Trev might be interested in Campbell. So Campbell has to be on any list. He's got to be in your top tier, right?
He's
He's a
right up
Midwest
there.
guy.
Right up there.
Yeah.
Without
Well,
question.
42-year-old. He's only 10-7 in his last 17 games at Iowa State. Now that gives you some pause, right? But
Well, the
he's
only
still-
question too is he hasn't recruited, and this may not be the answer for Nebraska, but he hasn't recruited like the high grade players. He's a developmental coach that gets.
Maybe that's what Nebraska needs.
And
When was
Yeah,
the last
can-
time they
can you-
developed
can
guys?
Nebraska?
well, when's the last time they get 5 stars here?
But we can also say for the last 20 years, Nebraska has tried to play the recruiting game, and it
Mhm.
hasn't really worked.
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
you go after the foreign.
The lack of
fives.
development, and this is just not just Frost, but over the past at least 2 staffs has been staggeringly bad. And I think probably the number one issue facing Nebraska, particularly with their development on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Oh yeah, the trenches.
For
are
me,
a
that
major
is
problem.
the number one issue for why Nebraska is where it is: the lack of development on the offensive and defensive lines.
This search will be so much different than what we've now. Take away the Solich one, that was a freak show. But you think about when Eichhorst fired Bo. I mean, he had a gun to his head to get it done in a week, and he did.
Why did he have a gun? I don't remember that. Why did he have a?
Eichhorst didn't want to be Steve Peterson and not
Okay.
have a coach. So
Well, I don't think his superiors wanted it to be a protracted
so.
search.
You go back to that timeline. He fired Bo on Sunday. The game was Friday. I remember we went through Saturday. Everyone was cool. And I don't even think Bo knew he was going to get fired on Sunday. And he went in to meet with Eichhorst because they just beat Iowa to go 9-3. And he goes in for that meeting with Eichhorst and gets fired.
Mhm.
And then boom, then by Friday, he had Mike Riley hired.
By the following Friday.
Actually, Thursday, because
that's incredible.
I was in Beatrice at the Husker lunch, and you were probably in Fremont.
yeah, I don't remember.
And they hired Mike Riley, but they went from Bielema to Chris to Riley. That was kind of and by Thursday, Riley was announced, and Friday, the press conference happened.
Yeah, I get the feeling now because Trev Alberts moved so quickly in this decision that he doesn't have to move. He doesn't have to move that quickly
You know,
here.
he made that pretty clear.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain timelines you want to look at, like with the early signing period and the transfer portal.
Yeah, this is the day you need to know, December 5th.
Yeah.
That is the day
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Sean.
So the college football playoff championship teams are announced on like Sunday the 4th, I believe it is. So that Monday after, that is the first open day that you can go in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's
Well, that's early signing date too.
it will be like the next week, I believe. It's like the third.
So it's okay.
It's like
So having a staff in place would be advantageous. by
Okay,
December
lay
5th.
that out by what? December 5th?
5th.
hold on.
okay.
I wrote
Just
I'm gonna
if you want to try to have roster retention and guys know who their coach is going to be when it comes time to enter the portal, I mean, that's a pretty notable deadline.
Yeah, there's 800 people watching this for knowledge like that. Seriously.
So the day the portal opens,
So get it
on-
right.
is December 5th.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
college football playoff teams get announced on the 4th, Sunday.
And then when's early signing day?
That is the third Wednesday of December.
Okay, so having a coach in place in that time before that time
I think
frame
you
makes
have
a
to have
lot of sense.
You almost have to have a coach in place before December 5th, because December 5th, it's going to be like opening day of deer hunting season. As I said last night, it's going to be wild. I mean, there's just going to be people out everywhere hunting, and it's going to be, and people are going to be poaching this roster right now. Like if you know a guy on this team and have a connection to a coach or a kid, you better believe that
Yeah.
feelers are going out.
Yeah.
Anthony Grant, AJ Allen.
Yeah,
You think
A.J.
you're not
Allen.
going to get feelers in the next month or two?
Absolutely. And that is a distraction. And that's the sort of thing that Mickey Joseph, as the interim head coach, will address with this team. I imagine he'll have to do all he can to keep their attention right here. That they just parted ways with, these are a bunch of guys who signed up at Nebraska to play for Scott Frost. He's gone. Obviously that affects him.
Mm-hmm.
So Mickey's got a tough job, and the toughness of the job is exacerbated by those outside factors like the transfer portal.
Especially when you got a bunch of guys that have been here for barely 9 months
Mhm.
in some cases.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, so they have very little attachment to this place beyond those coaching staff and their teammates. And so, I mean, now that that's disrupted, that's going to be a real task for some of those guys for this
Which I
interim
wish,
staff
right.
to keep in place.
I wish I would have thought it out more before sort of ruling out Mickey as the interim, because Mickey's powerful personality will help keep these guys engaged in this program. He's probably makes a lot of sense because of the climate we're in college football.
You put your most elite recruiter in a
Mhm.
position to re-recruit everybody on that roster.
Thank you. That's a great way to
Well,
put it.
I mean,
It's a great way to put it, Rob.
You talk to somebody, Sipple, the lack of seniors on this team right now.
I didn't talk to somebody. I just looked at the depth chart. It's incredible. If any of our listeners or viewers could do this, look at the 3 deep and notice the lack of seniors on both sides of the ball. It's pretty incredible, really. Defense, there's only one senior starter, Caleb Tanner. Now there's guys like O'Shawn Mathis and Garrett Nelson that will move on, but they're not seniors. There's only 3. I think on the 3 deep, there's only 3 or 4 seniors on the defensive side. Offensive side, it's not much more than that. It's pretty amazing.
I'm going to see if Trey can get the scholarship distribution chart on there, so we can get a look at just what it looks like for Nebraska's roster right now. And by the way, we're pushing 1,100 live viewers right now. So,
so don't say anything wrong.
The public has spoken. They like these live shows, and we're going to keep doing them because we'll get our articles up on Husker Online. We know that's a big part of it. We know interacting on the Red Sea Scrolls is important, but we want to promote. We want to be on with you as well and continue to do these live chats, guys, because we got a lot of comments, a lot of remarks. Been a lot of questions, guys, about Urban Meyer as a candidate. You brought this up when you walked in the door. Trev basically.
Well, he said this when Sam McEwen asked him what 3 or 4 traits. Sam asked Trev Alberts, what 3 or 4 traits are you looking for? And what was number 1?
Character.
Yeah. He said character matters. Now, my immediate thought as I was scribbling in my notebook was that could rule out Urban Meyer right there. It could. Because you could bring that comment back at Trev if he tried that. I'm not necessarily I want to be on record here. I'm not against Nebraska hiring Urban Meyer, but Trev said what he did, Rob.
But does Urban Meyer's clout and resume as a college head coach supersede that? I mean, that's the question.
Subjective question.
I know. And so that's what we don't know is, I mean, he's saying character and all this stuff, but when you get a guy that's won national championships at 2 different schools, that changes the discussion.
Okay, here's the deal about Urban Meyer. Come on, let's just put it out there. Let's put it out there. If you hire Urban Meyer at Nebraska, you're winning 9 pretty quick. And from there, it probably is going to 10, 11, or 12.
But you're giving up power of things. Like he's got full power.
Who's giving up power?
Well, like he's in charge. I mean,
what does that matter to Trev Alberts? It takes pressure off Trev Alberts. If that guy can win 9, 10, 11 games, wouldn't you be shocked if Urban Meyer came in here and in year 2 threw a 5-7? Year 2.
Would I be shocked?
I'd be shocked. I'd be floored.
Yeah.
I'd be floored if Urban Meyer in year 2. I don't know about year 1 because I don't know what year 1's going to look like. But by year 2, if he's still throwing 5-7, I'd be shocked. I think he'd get 9 right away.
The other thing you got to take into account is the last time he coached somewhere, it was a total dumpster fire in Jacksonville.
Well, NFL, that's a whole.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. Like, does that have any impact on his approach to rebuilding a college football program? I think it's not going to happen, obviously, but
what's not going to happen?
Urban. I don't think he's a real I just don't see that.
You don't?
Well, he's never taken a job where you'd have to work to find talent.
Utah. Early in his career.
But in Bowling Green, but you go back to that
early.
Too. I think Arizona State or something like that would make
Texas
more sense.
Although Texas looked good yesterday. I don't know that Sark is going to be in trouble. Now we'll see how Texas responds to that loss to Alabama, but man, that looked like a good defense to me. The Texas playing. Anyway, I get what you're saying.
I think it's fun talk here on YouTube, Husker Online Live right now. And
you were ruling out Urban
Meyer. Hey, we
Meyer,
got the scholarship chart pulled up here. So,
Sean, are you ruling out Urban Meyer?
I'm just being realistic here, but Trey's got the scholarship
Spoiler
chart
alert,
here.
he's on the hot board.
Take a look at the board here, Sib. I mean, look at the lack of seniors on this team right now.
Okay.
Omar Manning, Oliver Martin, Travis Vokalek, Brock Bando, Trent Hickson.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean.
I mean, Devin
Stunning.
Drew.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of guys that would be coming back from maybe a 6 year of college that are juniors that may not want to come back, but there aren't a lot of seniors on this roster.
I know.
But at the same time, there's 9 players that are senior scholarship players right now. At the same time, I still wouldn't be surprised if the number of new additions to this team is between 30 and 40 next year.
Again,
it wouldn't surprise me at all.
No, not at all. I mean, it's just the way this era of college football is now. I think that's the new norm. I mean, you're going to see, maybe not to that extent where you're seeing
everywhere.
30, but in a lot of places, especially during a coaching transition.
But not the top places.
Well, okay, because you're not doing a coaching search or a complete overhaul of your staff, and who knows what they're going to be schematically. So that, I think, should not be surprising whatsoever. Just given the nature of college football roster management now, the circumstances Nebraska is going to be in potentially with who they hire with their new coach, and just kind of the way that the portal is become a function of building a roster just as much as high school recruiting.
All right, let's work in some comments. First of all, Robin, Ben wants you to know that the Giants won, and
G-Man.
So what this Sunday did was disrupt Robin's full NFL routine. Like Robin and I have worked together since 2008.
I had just sat down on the couch. I was ready to really get into it, and then Sean texted me. He's like, "Hey, be ready." And I'm like,
"You guys didn't want to believe me." I called you. I was like, "It's happening today."
I'm still a little bit in a fog. I mean, we were up till 1:30 last night.
I was at 9:30 church, and I never do this, but I checked my email like 3 times at church.
Oh,
because I just had a weird feeling that this was going to be a day. It was.
I didn't, and let's be honest, you saw it coming much more than I did, or it sounds like Rob did. I did not think this would happen, and I wrote it yesterday.
No, I didn't think it was till October.
And you know what? Most of the media, I would say, weren't anticipating this happening today. So no, but you know what though? After the fact, after Trev explained it, it does make sense.
Yeah, I mean,
it makes sense.
I think it's just one of those, we just assumed that buyout and the plan that they went through all off season, renegotiating, restructuring this thing, like that was the plan all along. And no matter what was going to happen between now and October 1st, wasn't necessarily going to impact it. Like that was the real deadline for when a decision would be made. And clearly there were more important things than $7.5 million.
Well,
for Trev Alberts.
What is it? It's winning.
Exactly.
It matters.
We said it's protecting the brand of Nebraska. I mean, right now, Nebraska's been a punching bag for a long time. And right now, I mean, they were interrupting NFL coverage talking about Scott Frost getting fired. And so clearly they are still very much in the national discussion. And so to be proactive and say that what we saw last night is unacceptable and there will be accountability, there will be consequences, I think is a very important statement made by Trev Alberts.
Yeah. Now, what it offers up is the notion that don't leave a bunch of sports writers in charge of a athletic program. I mean, when you look back on it in this press conference and what Trev said, this makes all the sense in the world to move now.
Yeah.
Winning is big to Trev. He almost he does not, I mean, he's an administrator technically, but he kind of thinks like a player and a coach that let's get this. No, hey, we got to make a move now to give us a chance next week.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, like,
right?
Does Sean Eichhorst make that decision? Does he just follow the money? I mean, maybe not unfair to put him in that spot, but like, does a non-football guy focus too much on the money and not much about the football and the needs of the fan base
and enhancing your chances to win?
Exactly.
Right. Enhancing your chances
to still try to be competitive this season.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what separates Trev as a guy that's been in the shoes and done it, as opposed to someone that just got a law degree and is an athletic director.
All right, getting a lot of comments, questions. I've heard this name a lot.
Okay.
Troy Calhoun Air Force.
What do you think of it?
I
what do you think, Sean?
I've met him. He came up here to a Bo Pelini coaches clinic years ago.
Mhm.
He spoke at a clinic, if I'm not mistaken, or they went to spring ball. So I've seen him around here once over the years, but I just don't know if that moves the needle.
Yeah,
I
he's been there
don't-
since
Are we
2007.
talking about option football?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. I know he's a great coach. I mean, but is he the right coach for Nebraska?
I mean, for right now, I don't think so, because I think Nebraska needs to do something that injects some life into the program. I don't know if Troy does that. I mean, no offense to him. Like, he's won 113 games. He's got 2 Mountain West championships. So, I mean, he's been a staple at Air Force for a long time now and has had a lot of success there. But for what Nebraska needs here and now, he's pretty far down my list personally.
Let's see, moving down the comments here, just we've covered a lot of the questions and comments on here, and people are just kind of chiming in their thoughts on things. But yeah, I'm just so intrigued now, the number of rumors and things that we're going to chase. I mean, honestly, there's probably no better time to get on a website like Husker Online, because it's literally going to be every single day from now until probably June, where we're either going to be talking about coaching news
that
or
doesn't sound
news.
particularly appealing, but go ahead.
Like, I told my wife,
yeah,
I mean, like, today I'm
you
like,
told your
well,
wife that you're gonna be married, and
I said, well, you know the drill, what this is going to be like for the next few months. I mean,
it'll be. I think it's manageable, Sean.
no, I know. I'm not trying to throw a pity party here, but
Right.
it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Trev has created a lot more interest in things now moving forward.
Yes, he has.
With all of this.
Yes.
Again, and then compared to the alternative
Yes.
too. I mean, imagine just Scott Frost coming off that loss with Big Noon Saturday coming to town, the national showcase game of Fox.
With Gus Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, like that, it would just been a
It's been tough for Scott.
defeatist vibe around that entire weekend. Now at least there's something new. There's something new to talk about. There's a new coach. There's a new way of doing things. And if nothing else, it at least changes the course of the narrative a little bit for the time.
You know what else was important today? I thought and I don't think a lot of people will point this out, but it really struck me. And that was how respectful Trev Alberts was to Scott Frost.
Mhm.
And I think, why do I think that's important? Because other coaches are watching this press conference. And if he's disrespectful to the outgoing guy, they take note of that. And
He let him talk to the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trev
walked with him to the player meeting.
Like, we've been through a number of
Not as
these.
cordial
Think
as
about
it
Bo
gets.
Pelini. They set up an underground meeting at Lincoln North Star's auditorium illegally.
Who's they?
Well, people that wanted to help Bo.
Bo Pelini and
Yeah.
his team, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't Sean
Somebody
Eichler
that
set
had
up
keys
that.
to North Star.
Yeah,
And
we
I-
always
I
got to
mean,
be. Yeah, you
A
got
guy almost lost his job at the school for like allowing the meeting to happen there.
right. See, this was handled much better, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm
It was
saying
handled much better by all parties, including
Like,
Trev
I
Alberts.
Credit to
should've-
Scott Frost too for handling it like a professional.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure he was very bitter and
Emotional.
upset and emotional about how this all happened, and how it got to this point, considering where he was the day he walked in here. And so, for him to, take his lumps and go and have that conversation, be cordial, professional, and then be able to deliver a message to his team. I mean, I don't think that could have been handled any better, like you said, by both parties.
Both parties. Now, here's the thing I'd say about Scott, and I think you would back this, Rob, and I think Sean would too. Scott understands why he's not the head coach, and he never was like, when we criticized him, asked him tough questions, he would never push back because he knew he deserved it.
Mhm.
And I know it's kind of damning him with faint praise, but I appreciate that thick skin he had. He was 16-31. At the end, there was really no defending him. And he knew, hey guys, he knew that.
Mhm.
He wasn't going to try. I asked him in that press conference last night, how do you sell the notion of progress now?
knew.
And he just laughed.
He
He's like,
kind of,
I mean,
yeah, he knew, and he didn't bite back at that, because he knew he couldn't. So
And here's
It's a-
Scott Frost, by the way. Kevin Suits of 10-11 here on the screen. This is Scott Frost leaving Memorial Stadium. We'll cue it up here again, but this was a video captured by 10-11 here in Lincoln. Scott Frost making his final exit here. That was equipment manager Jay Terry, and I don't know who the first gentleman is there near Frost, but that was him making.
tough day.
You think about last night, his mom, Carol, was honored on the field by athletic director Trev Alberts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a human element to all this, but there's also a very pragmatic side to this discussion. And we keep saying 16 and 31. That's what I mean by pragmatic. Rob said it. This played out to a point where, in a sense, Trev had no choice. No. It became a matter of not if, but when. Mm-hmm. So, and I think people are understanding in this room, we have come around to the notion that this was the exact right time. We didn't expect it, but this all played out in a way that led to today, mm-hmm. and making the move today. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Trev did a good job of making sense of why it happened today. He answered the question very well.
And let's also keep in mind, before we start feeling too sorry for Scott, is he's getting paid in full. Like, he didn't restructure that buyout. He didn't renegotiate his
salary.
Yeah. So, that's a pretty nice little parting gift.
19 and change. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, he's going to get
19 million and change,
and 19 million for 16 wins.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's
some people aren't going to like that. By the way, I've heard from people already that why. Now, some people have been are critical of Trev already. Why pay him that money?
I think Trev probably wrestled with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, no doubt. I mean, that's what that whole situation in the last season was all about. Like, you're keeping him for another year just to lower that buyout and make it a more financially responsible decision to make a move if necessary. And then you like 2 weeks before the cutoff point, you go ahead and make the move anyway.
But we understand it.
Yeah. I mean,
I also understand a contract is a contract, right? Now I will tell you this. Okay. Now I'm going to open myself up to criticism here, which I tend to do. But if I were the head coach at Nebraska and I was 16 and 31, I wouldn't let him take a dime out of my buyout. If I'm due 15 million, I want my 15 million. That's the contract we all agreed to.
Yeah.
Now, am I wrong on that?
No, it's business 101.
Right.
When you sign a contract,
I signed it. You signed it. I signed it. Pay me the money.
You agreed to give me this much money.
Yeah, I'm not into appeasing other people, and I'm taking the emotion out of it.
To fall on the sword and say, no, don't pay me $15 million.
I'm not that.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not doing that. So I just fall back on that. This was the contract that the parties agreed to. People can criticize that all they want.
And we've now pushed over 1,400 live viewers. So I'd say people are interested in what's going on.
Just a little bit.
as we continue this discussion of Nebraska's decision to fire Scott Frost here on Sunday, Oklahoma coming into town. We will not hear from Mickey Joseph until Tuesday. So no press conference tomorrow. Are you anticipating a week of just Mickey Joseph Tuesday and nothing else? Or do you think we'll get Shenander? Do you think we'll get Whipple? I can't imagine they're going to put players up there Tuesday, but maybe they will.
Yeah, I mean, it's risky. Like, if it is players, it's your captains. I mean, it's going to be Garrett Nelson and Casey and the guys.
Casey's not a captain.
Well, he's a face
Garrett
of the program.
Nelson, you would have. Maybe they might put Vokalek up there. Nick Henrich, and who's the Cale Tanner?
Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know how they'll handle that. I mean, if they handle it in the, if they follow the lead of the AD, they'll continue to be transparency. Now, how appropriate is it to put players in a Tuesday news conference setting so close to the fact of firing their head coach because of the emotions and the potential for those emotions to spill over? That's a judgment call. I don't know. Now, as far as Whipple and Shenander go, they should be in front of the media. They should be in front of
especially Shenander,
especially Eric.
Yeah, because Mickey can't answer defensive questions.
Right. There's nothing wrong with putting Eric Shenander in front of the media. Nothing. I mean, this is a fan base, as you guys have pointed out, Sean in particular. That stadium has been full this year.
Saturday night was unbelievable.
Great atmosphere.
The student section.
And they stayed. They stayed through the whole game.
I think the fans deserve answers.
Absolutely.
I mean, I do. And Eric, I think Eric understands that.
I mean, he gave up the most yards ever in Memorial Stadium history.
Yeah, I mean,
642
to Georgia Southern.
He's employed. He's responsible. His boss preaches accountability. Removing him from media obligations that's not accountability. That works against in my opinion, that works against the notion of accountability.
Absolutely.
Am I wrong?
You're getting protected.
Yeah, I don't know. Make him accountable, and Eric can handle it. I mean, Chenander can handle it.
Yeah, he's a grown up.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw another name out here. There's a couple of people brought up the name Mike Gundy. He's not on our hot board.
Gundy's, I mean, come on. That would be very interesting. It'd be very interesting. I don't know if he belongs on a hot board, but Gundy, look at his record.
Yeah.
Just look at the record.
But he's a
look at the record.
He's
I
a
just
former
think he's
player
a
at
Big
Oklahoma
12
State.
guy.
I mean,
he's a Big 12 guy.
But what is the Big 12 in the next few years?
Yeah. But yeah, okay. Yeah, when you talk about what a fit is in the conference, that conversation changes immensely.
Okay, now would Gundy be a fit in the conference? They're playing good defense. They played excellent defense last year, well enough that Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator, got hired by the Big Ten power, Ohio State. Jim Knowles was the defensive coordinator who created an excellent front seven at Oklahoma State. So good that Ohio State, the king of the Big Ten, hired Jim Knowles away. Gundy, now Gundy will run the ball. I mean, he's probably the most notable part of his offense is he recruits very dynamic receivers. So does Ohio State.
He's had some elite running backs.
Yeah, he's taking a quarterback,
NFL running backs.
I'm sorry,
he's got a quarterback recruit.
Yeah, he's already got a local QB.
Hey, a little like nugget here. Mike Gundy's sister lives in Lincoln.
Oh,
let's get that.
The dots are getting connected right now.
Her husband, Craig,
a quarterback in Gretna and a sister in Lincoln. That's enough for me. That's enough for a rumor.
Kate Strickland was a state champion level golfer at Lincoln Southwest, and his brother-in-law Craig was a tight end for the Cowboys with Mike Gundy.
Here's the deal. You know what I always keep saying, and you guys can shoot me down on these opinions. I always talk about coaches who I think would have a stomach for this place. And what do I mean by that? It's tough. It's a tough place to coach. It's very demanding. Media demands, fans demands, a lot of scrutiny. I say Bill O'Brien could handle that, and I think Gundy could handle that. There's certain guys I'd say I don't know if he can do it. Pelini couldn't handle it. He didn't handle it well.
No.
Gundy, oh, come on. Gundy could handle it. Mark Stoops could handle it. He's a Stoops. He watched his brother handle that Oklahoma fan base. And
Frost knew what it was, but he didn't like it.
I don't know that he handled it all that well.
He had a hard time. He'd go into back doors of restaurants, and he didn't like.
Well, he's very private.
Well, his opening press conference, he put his foot down. It was like, if anybody interviews or takes video of my family, you're done. Like day one.
Right.
So I mean, he already had those concerns about taking that position and all that comes with it before he even coached a day.
There's that element. And I'm talking more about being able to handle the scrutiny and criticism. Now, Scott did that pretty well, I thought. But anyway, you got to be pretty tough mentally to handle it here. Tough. All coaches are tough mentally, but there's degrees. And I think some coaches are just more cut out to handle Green Bay than others. Right.
All right. So we've been asked, can we hone in on 5? And I think we would agree.
Okay. Let's do it.
I'm going to throw I think we all agree on. Matt Campbell.
Yes.
Bill O'Brien.
Yes.
Put those 2 on there. Right
Rob.
Now. Those are 2.
Okay.
I think we all agree on those 2.
Rob, you're doing a hot board.
Lance Leipold.
3.
I think needs to be in that conversation.
I put him in my column.
Kansas coach.
Okay. Why Lance?
Well, he's got local ties. I mean, he's from Kansas, went to school at Drake. 150.
I don't think I don't know if he went to school at Drake.
You're thinking of Dave. You're thinking of Dave Doran.
Oh yeah, wrong one. My bad.
No.
So he was at Wisconsin, Whitewater. That's right. Then went to Buffalo, and then is at Kansas now, where they're up to their first 2-0 start since 2011
with a win at West Virginia,
with an immediate turnaround.
With the win last year against Texas in Austin. Lance won 6 national championships at the D3 level, 6 national championships at
Wisconsin Whitewater,
resurrected Buffalo's program,
2 MAC titles,
coached at UNO, was an on-campus recruiting coordinator under Frank. So that's his background, very successful background. Now I know Lance, all full disclosure, I've known Lance for 25 years. Now I will say this about Lance, and this struck me 20 years ago. He's a big picture thinker. He's very big picture oriented. He's you know what he is? CEO. He is not like a guy that's, buried in a play sheet. He would always ask me strange questions about that were always big picture oriented. And I always say, Lance, why do you care about that? You're calling plays at UNO. Well, he was thinking about being a head coach someday.
He worked on Alvarez's staff too, right?
He's from Wisconsin. That's the other thing.
Bill Callahan on that great Wisconsin staff.
Yes, he is from the state of Wisconsin, so he understands Big Ten football he has an acute understanding of Big Ten football. And he could handle it here. Now, I don't know. I regard Lance as a long shot, but I think he should be on.
What about Dave Doran?
Okay, now wait a second. We got three.
Is Dave Doran on there?
Okay, name the three. Go back and name the three.
Okay, so we're Matt Campbell.
Okay.
Bill O'Brien.
And Lance Leipold.
Lance Leipold. This is the Husker Online 5-pack.
Okay, 5-pack. Okay, now who else are we putting on your 5-pack there, boys?
What about Chris Kleiman?
I can't get him in my 5.
Okay.
Sean, you have a voice.
I like Chris Kleiman. I mean, obviously.
You could maybe talk me into it. I liked what I saw from Kansas State yesterday. My God, they played well against Missouri.
He's from Iowa.
Okay. I'll tell you what, Nebraska fans would be. It's pretty appealing the way they play. They're a tough running team. They play good defense, good special teams. They're very complimentary football is what I'm talking about.
He knows how to work the portal.
He knows how to work the Yeah. Okay, Kleiman, maybe. Okay, give me one more then.
All right. So what are your thoughts on Dave Aranda? That name gets thrown out a lot.
I can't put him in my 5.
I just don't know what the mutual level of interest would be there.
Bill Bush worked with Dave Aranda.
What about, Sean's already out on Urban. What about you?
Does he belong in our 5-pack? That's the question. Yes, he belongs.
If Urban Meyer said, Trev, I'd do it. Would you
I think
say
it's a no-brainer. Then
he belongs in our 5-pack. If you believe that, Rob,
I think so.
Okay. If you had
there's baggage, no doubt.
If you had your pick of people that you think you could get, and you got to throw the biggest names out, like Dabo. You can't say guys like that, but Urban's available.
What if Urban said that to Trev Alberts? Then what do you do if you're Trev Alberts?
I know. I would be interested.
For
$10 million,
like you said, Sib. You're talking about 9 wins happening very quickly.
I'd be shocking if he didn't win 9.
So, there's a lot of value to that can supersede whatever issues he might be dealing with over the last few years.
Yeah, there were issues.
I was watching a lot of the coverage about Alabama, Texas, in the Nick Saban program and all his assistant coaches because of the big Sarkisian angle. And when you see how Alabama runs their program, it just they have so many coaches so that they called it the outfield and the infield. So all of in the meeting room, all of the full-time coaches sit at the table and they call that the infield. And then all of the GAs and analysts sit around
outfield
and they call that the outfield. And Mike Loxley and Sarkisian and all these guys sat in the outfield tables. And Loxley's I had to take kids to the pool at summer camp. And these are your analysts.
God, that's demeaning. But anyway, it's not terribly demeaning.
But just it just shows you how far ahead the elite is right now.
Okay, so 5-pack review. Go.
Okay, we got our 3. Have we got a 4th and a 5th?
Well, I would put Urban in there.
Okay, we got Urban in there. 5-pack: Urban Meyer, Matt Campbell, Lance Leipold, Bill O'Brien. We need one more.
All right. What are your thoughts on? We already said no to Kleiman. Does Mickey Joseph belong in the conversation? We just spent about 10 minutes talking about how great it was that he's the interim.
I don't think he's in the 5-pack right now, but he could work his way.
He's in the 6-pack, maybe.
Yeah. I think Mickey is in an interesting position that he could work his way into it. And I don't set a win total to it. You'll know by your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if right away you see more effort,
engagement,
a little more engagement, a little more want to and fight against Oklahoma, you'll be okay, And then as we go, if you continue to see that with a few wins, Mickey is in the 6-pack, 5-pack.
And we can say this now about Scott Frost. It never really felt like the engagement was there with him and players.
Just fair.
It wasn't great though.
Just fair.
The his personality just didn't click with today's kid very well.
I hesitate.
I think it did with some,
not all,
but definitely not all.
I hesitate to say that, Sean, in part because we're not there every day. So we're talking about large. You're basing that largely on perception.
I'm going off what some players have told me.
Okay. Well, you heard Garrett Nelson say all he wanted was to see Frost happy. Garrett Nelson obviously had a strong connection.
Mhm.
There's a lot of recruits or a lot of these portal guys that I've talked to, or a lot of guys we talked to this summer who said, I'm here because of Scott Frost. So there was a connection to a lot of guys. I don't know. Okay. Have we clearly defined our fifth?
Robin, keep going down the list.
Kleiman, Joseph are fighting for that fifth spot.
Yep. All right. Well, then we have, what about like a guy like Jim Leonard,
Ooh.
D coordinator at Wisconsin?
Ooh.
He's only been coaching since 2016.
Jim Leonard turned down the Packers.
Head coaching job?
Was it the defensive coordinator?
Yeah, it was.
Sean, there's 1,100 people watching this. Are you sure about your facts?
Okay, I'm going to look this up.
Yeah, I don't know if he got
I
the
don't
head
know.
coaching job.
Yeah, I think that was an offensive coordinator.
He's only been a college coordinator since 2017.
Leonard is intriguing. Keep going down your list.
But okay, so you got that guy. Mark Stoops.
Okay, fifth. That's number 5.
He turned down the Packers defensive coordinator.
Okay,
yeah, that makes way more sense.
Okay, yeah, not head coach. I'd put Stoops in our 5-pack. I'd go after.
You
him.
think there's enough mutual interest there? Like,
Not necessarily, but I'd put him on there.
Well, he makes a lot, like all the sense. I mean, in the fact that he's been a head coach for almost 10 years in the SEC, he's got Big Ten experience as a player.
He played at Iowa too.
Yeah, he played at Iowa.
God,
He was a GA at Iowa.
He'd fit this.
I mean, he's been a D coordinator at the highest level for multiple years before being a head coach, and he built Kentucky into a winner. He turned a school football program into a winner.
Yeah, I'm saying Stoops on.
Here's what he's going to do. He's going to call Bo Pelini. He's probably talked to Bo Pelini.
Oh God, you're right.
And what do you think? Bo is not going to
the
give
Youngstown
a great
connection.
No boy.
recommendation on taking the job.
Okay, that's a good point. It's a good point.
I mean, those guys are from the same like Catholic school.
They're like,
I mean, they grew up together,
right?
And he knows enough about it. And Vince Marrow.
Yeah,
Vince Marrow is his lead lieutenant.
We can't get this fifth guy.
We're missing a big one. What about Luke Fickell?
No,
he's waiting. He's waiting on Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State.
We need a fifth. It's either Kleiman or Joseph right now for the fifth spot.
Okay, we'll throw some other names at you. What about we talked about Troy Calhoun, Dave Doran. What about Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina?
I mean, he's intriguing.
Alex Grinch, defensive coordinator at USC.
Intriguing, but no.
Matt Entz from North Dakota State, current head coach there.
I mean, I feel like they've had kind of the program continues to put North Dakota State. I just can't see that being a fit.
Well, now you're getting into the real long shots where Zach Taylor.
Okay, the issue with Zach Taylor, number one, is any NFL guy.
So Matt Rule is in this conversation as well.
Any NFL guy you go after, a head coach that's a sitting head coach, they're not available till like mid-January.
Trouble. Skip them.
And we just talked about how big December 5th was.
Rule could get fired before.
Correct. He is firmly on the hot seat right now.
Matt Rule could be fired in time for Nebraska.
Yeah, Bill Callahan was fired before the season.
He's got 2 straight 5-win seasons, so their patience is running out with him.
Keep going. Give me a couple more.
And then you're getting into like PJ Fleck, Brett Bielema, Sam Pittman.
Bielema turned it down already.
Yeah. PJ Fleck.
No.
Sam Pittman, I mean, he is
be great, but he's at Arkansas.
He's in the perfect situation for Sam Pittman.
I think we go back to Kleiman and make a decision on which one should be in the top 5, and maybe just make it a 6-pack and say both. Do that.
Yeah,
we got our 6-pack.
So to recap, our 6-pack of top names today.
Okay.
The guy that I was down blanking.
Matt
Campbell, Urban Meyer,
Bill O'Brien.
Who we at?
Mickey Joseph, Chris Kleiman, and Urban Meyer. There it is.
Not Jim Leonard.
And not Mark Stoops.
Right outside.
Not Mark Stoops. Okay.
Right outside. That's our 6-pack. Bam.
There you go.
1,500 people watching.
And like I said, will be constantly evolving. So this is 1.0, and the more info we get, we will get more realistic, likely candidates.
My top 3, my personal top 3 would be O'Brien, Leipold, Campbell. That's my personal.
Oh wait, did we have Leipold on our 6-pack? I thought we did. Okay,
I think we did.
I don't know.
Maybe we did.
Kind of went.
Did we skip Leipold?
He should be on there.
Yeah, maybe we skipped him. But my personal top 3: O'Brien, Leipold, Campbell, in that order.
People are throwing out Lane Kiffin. That's just not happening.
I know. We talked about him last night. It'd be a whole lot of fun, but
I don't know that we need a whole lot of fun right now. I think we need a whole lot of
don't
wins.
we though? Don't we? There hasn't been a whole lot of fun
What
going
about
on
the
here.
Wake Forest coach? That's been brought up.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, that's definitely someone I would look at if I were
Trev said he's like, I'm not trying to win the press conference.
Right.
Yeah. He said he also said that you're going to see Nebraska linked to a lot of coaches because he's going to talk to a lot of coaches. But just because he's talking to them doesn't mean that they're working up a contract offer right then and there. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through this process, that when you see on Twitter, Nebraska has reached out to so-and-so coach from XYZ University, it's just preliminary discussions, getting feelers out, creating some dialogue in a lot of these situations.
Also, Trev said resources will not be an impediment.
No,
they'll pay top.
Yeah, they're going to
dollar.
pay. That was, I think,
If they have to.
Very pertinent to this
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Do you think any boosters at all were clued in on today's happenings before they happened?
Absolutely.
They had to be.
Absolutely.
Like out of courtesy, your top 10 people probably got a call.
I don't know how he would go forward in that regard, but yeah, he had to let people.
Well, I
know.
think everybody they're all businessmen themselves. Like they understand business.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody likes Scott Frost as a person and what he did as a player, but this is business.
Right. I hope we're not being insensitive to Scott. Again, I said earlier, I really appreciated how respectful Trev was to Scott today.
No, I think he handled everything the right way. But
on a very human level.
Mm-hmm.
All right, as we wrap up, this hot board, Robin, is going to be going up here soon.
Very soon.
So you want to get on HuskerOnline.com. We've got a great special coaching search underway. 1 year, $10 gets you on Husker Online. This is a promotional special. The $10 price, I'm told, is only going to last for a few days, and it's going to go up again. So we're fully launched on the On3 network. Make sure you get on there. Take advantage of our new coaching search special that launched here today on the On3 network. This hot board, among Steve Sipple's columns, my stories, all the great content we put up will be available on there. And this hot board, you're going to want to bookmark this thing.
Like I said, because it's going to be constantly updated. So what you see now will look very differently in a week or two.
I love it. Shout out to Parker Gabriel, who's watching, my former colleague.
PG.
Denver.
Doesn't he have a game to cover?
He just said he's
watching it from the press box.
See, this stuff's important to people. God bless them.
They're Monday, right? Broncos.
Yeah, maybe what are they?
Broncos Seahawks.
Oh, okay.
In Seattle.
Okay. Yeah.
It's probably
right.
traveling.
Well, hey, thank you, everybody. We had record viewership. We peaked out over 1,500 live viewers watching today's show.
God bless you all.
We'll be back for sure after the Oklahoma game. Who knows? We may be back before. Actually, we'll be back tomorrow night. Jeff Cameron and I and Sip are going to be on a special Monday night show. So we'll have more discussion about all of this, but we wanted to talk to you all tonight because we know how big today was. Thank you again. Make sure you check us out, Husker Online. And thanks again to our producer, Trey Yanity, for putting the show together. For Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, I'm Sean Callahan.